没有，参加了不是个分都不行了，分都参加了，没有，不是每个分都是。
Well, you know,
咱们理解是不对呀，咱们刚刚都认为自己强。
第一是2啊，然后你的
哦，我有啊。
哦，你的3是第2啊。
okay, let's come back. So, what we have done is not perfect.
这么多笔的。
This is a beginning. For us to understand how reliable is this assessment so far, we need to have some conversation, but you will notice that you have quite a few people in the right-hand column. So there is quite a lot of strength there and quite a lot of strength in this piece. Not as many names on the left, which is exactly what I would expect. And so the question becomes, of the people who we put on the left, and by the way, the ones in the top grouping, these are, oh, can't show them that way. The ones at the top are primary, the ones below here are secondary.
就是说，我们这个表格，上面呢就是1后面的那些人名，就是说是主要的这个恩赐，2后面列的就是次要一点的这个恩赐，我们刚才讨论的结果。
So you need to consider again, are the people over on the left, the ones that we are indicating here, are the people that we're indicating as having primary gift on the left?
就是说，最左边这一栏里，我们识别出来的人们，有这个主要的恩赐的，就是导向型的这个恩赐的。
How strongly do they reflect these characteristics?
我们大家要看一看，这些弟兄姐妹是有多么强，在就是说，左边所列出来的这些特质里面，导向型领袖所需要的这些特质里面。
So one of the best ways to tell, one of the best ways to clarify who fits mostly on the left,
一个最重要的就是如何识别出人具有这个导向型的这个特质。
is to say what in their past reflects that they have behaved that way.
就是说在他们过去的这个历史中间是怎样反映出来他们有这样的一些个人品性特质吧。
And so you need to have some conversation
大家可能需要谈一谈。
to say, okay, we have some people who we perceive to be in that area.
然后就是做出决定，就是说，是的，我们确实是有这样一些弟兄姐妹，他们在左边这项是比较强的。
And so we need to have conversation actually among you
我们可能需要更多的这个谈话，在我们
to affirm who you all perceive to have mostly that strength on the left.
我们要就是说决定谁更强在左边这一栏里。
So that if I am quite sure that I have that gifting on the left,
Yes, saying
I'm quite sure that I belong over here,
就是说高尔他说他在左边这一栏是比较强的，他很确定。
but only 2 of you think so.
但是只有两个其他的人可能这么认为的话，
And 1 is my wife.
一个是他的妻子
Is it not a good sign?
那么这就不是一个很好的信号。
It's very important for us to trust each other on this.
所以大家要彼此的信任，在这一点上非常重要。
So, I'm not sure what to do here, but
Well,
I,
we are going to trust each other. Shall we just go through the exercise?
all right?
Let's do that.
So, how many would say that Felicia, you would say, yes, we see her like that? How many would say that? Okay? And
Brother Lin, he's not here.
he's not here?
He's not here.
How many of you would say Brother Lin definitely is on that side? Just put up your hand. And so,
Okay, somebody write down the number, Felicia.
Oh, we're taking vote?
Yeah.
okay,
Put your hand up again for number, for my name.
so why don't you write Let's do with Felicia again. How many would say Felicia? And let's count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10.
Okay? And we should have somebody other than Felicia do the counting because
Oh, yeah.
we should have somebody in the middle do the
Siri
counting.
can.
So let's have David should do the counting. How about that?
Oh, okay, I can do that.
Okay. So how many would say Brother Lin? Put up your hand.
Lin Jianzong.
林建中 15
15? And Fu Lin.
let's move
Do you want to count?
yeah 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9
Okay. And Doug.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14
Okay. And Joshua.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 including me
And is this one name or two names?
Shipping.
one person
One person. Shubin?
I vote for both of them.
How many would say
1 2 3
This is primary or this is secondary? Sorry,
No,
I'm
it doesn't
confused.
matter.
Oh, we're saying you see them primarily in this area.
so the 2 is the secondary
But if we think second is the primary, then do we raise our hands for secondary or no?
Okay.
I'm confused.
Let me clarify. What we're doing now is not about primary or secondary.
Yeah, just
Okay.
whoever.
What we're saying is simply, does this person fit strongly in this category?
Okay.
Okay? How many, Jubei? How many would say?
6
Okay. All right. So this gives us some idea. Not a perfect idea, but it gives us some idea. And I think this is the one that we're actually the most easily confused about. We pretty much know and can identify here, and we are much more accustomed to identifying people on this side. We're not so likely to identify people easily here. And so what I would suggest is that you begin this conversation now among you, and you would say, which of these people, I mean, we identified most strongly Felicia and Brother Lin and Joshua and Jubin, I think, most strongly. Or what were the numbers?
No, Shubin is what?
should be 6
6? No. So just
Mostly?
Felicia, Lin, and Joshua.
Okay. And so what we're saying here is if there is going to be inspirational direction that other people will follow, who is going to be able to do that for us? And will we give them permission to do it? Will we say, we will recognize them as having a gift and a capacity in that area? We want them to do it. That's what we're saying. Because many times these people are among us, and we know it, but we don't give them permission.
Fine.
就
Oh,
是
sorry.
就是说在这种情况下，就是说可能能更帮助大家识别出来我们中间的弟兄姐妹的一些恩赐，并且能够让我们给他们更大的自由，在这个教会做出导向这样的事情上面。
Yes? Any questions, comments about that?
大家有没有什么样的评论？就是说对于刚才所说的。
Now, let me show you a picture.
我们大家可以看一幅画。
This is a most beautiful picture.
在最后这一页上面，
I have never been able to draw anything in my whole life.
可能这是一个很美丽的图画，我没有画过这么美的。
But the computer is my best friend.
但是电脑是我的好朋友，
Even I can draw pictures now.
现在就画出了。
When it comes to the leadership of our church,
当讲到教会的这个领袖的时候，
we want to have people who have the qualifications of elders,
我们希望有人能够作为长老，
who demonstrate maturity,
来展示他的这个成熟的属灵的这个。
and maturity should mean that they also can trust each other,
这种成熟就是能够彼此的信任。
I would like to see in every church
我希望在每一个教会里面看到，
somebody who has permission in this area.
有一些人能够就是展示出他们的作为这种导向型领袖的，
That we actually look to that person to provide this overall direction and vision.
我们就希望这样的弟兄姐妹能够为教会做出导向，
That they are able to somehow inspire
他们能够在一些方面能够来激励这个教会，
so they are an effective inspirational voice.
他们是这个教会的一个激励的一个声音。
It's very important to have this administrative leader.
一个教会有管理型的领袖也是非常重要的。
And if this person could be the chairman of the group,
这样的领袖可以是作为一个小组的一个负责人。
it means so much to have an effective chairman of the group.
在一个教会里面有一个这样的主持人是非常重要的。
The chairman of the group is able to find out what everybody needs to contribute.
这个小组的主持人要能够找出来，就是每一个人能够为这个事工来贡献什么。
So the chairman of the group is able to say to the teacher,
这个小组的负责人是能够对教师说，
what do you have to say about this issue?
你对于这件事情，你有什么要说的？
To the shepherd, he is able to draw out from them the concerns that she has.
对牧养型的这个领袖，他是能够更加的关怀。
And this chairman should be able to help this group make decisions together.
这个管理型的这个领袖能够让不同的小组能够一起做出决定，
Hearing everybody,
能够听见每个人的声音，
listening to the voice of this person who is providing that inspirational focus.
他能够听到这个导向型的领袖来做出的这个导向，
It would be ideal
这样就很理想。
to have on every church leadership team
在每一个教会的领袖团队中，
a shepherd who knows and loves the people.
有一位牧养型的这个领袖，能够爱并且关怀这个会众。
Now, I'm not saying that only one person should know and love the people.
我并不是说只要有一位这样的领袖，
Everybody should know and love the people.
每一个人都要爱这个弟兄姐妹。
But some people are much better at it than others.
但是有一些人可能做得更好。
We know what teachers do.
我们都知道教师是做什么的。
This is the most typical, perhaps pastoral activity.
这是最常见的一种牧养的一个事工。
is the Bible teacher.
它是教导圣经。
And up here we have an evangelist.
在上面我们有传道人的这个事工。
We often are not so clear about what exactly an evangelist looks like.
我们其实有的时候并不太清楚一个传道人应该是什么样的。
But evangelists are able to communicate with simplicity the gospel.
但是一个传道人，他的最重要的恩赐就是能够用平易的话语来把福音传达出来。
Teachers often can communicate the gospel in 20 sermons.
一个教师可能要花20次讲道的时间来讲这个福音的内容，
But the evangelist can do it in 3 minutes.
但是一个传道人是一个很重要的恩赐，是3分钟时间就可以讲出来。
There is just a freedom and simplicity about this.
传道人重要的恩赐就是简单、平易、跟这个有效的传达福音。
Often these people are not included in our church leadership boards.
经常传道人并不是在这个教会的领袖团队里的。
I'm going to tell you why.
我告诉你为什么？
Because what these people do in their meetings
因为在其他的人来开会的时候，
is too boring to the evangelist.
对于传道人可能就是太麻烦了这个事情。
But we need to hear the evangelist's voice.
但是我们应该听取传道人的声音。
If there are so many church leadership groups
有这么多的教会领袖团队，
that are lacking this person,
都没有传道人的这个，
and so when they make their plans,
所以当他们做计划的时候，
this focus is missing.
这个传道人这方面常常被忽视
Or it's missing with clarity and simplicity.
会忽视这个清晰以及简单的这种传道方式。
I've put here the prophet.
我把先知的位置放在左边。
We have tended not to talk so much about prophets,
我们可能都不太习惯于谈论先知，
but I've put a definition of the prophet in this sheet.
但是我在下面为先知做了一个定义。
And this prophet speaks for God,
这个先知是传讲神的话语，
understands the character of God.
他懂得神的这个脾气。
And they are saying, what does God want of us at any given time and place?
他会告诉我们神希望我们做什么，在任何的这个环境。
How should we live because of what God says?
他会教导我们应该怎样生活，因为神是这么教导。
It would be ideal to have on your church leadership group each of these people.
如果一个教会的领袖团队有这样各种各样的领袖，那就领
And
袖。
then I put one spare person here.
我在这里放了一个空白，
You know why?
大家知道为什么？
Because it's so helpful if you have on your team
因为在教会里有领袖团队里有这么一个人是非常有帮助的。
somebody who is a wise and discerning person
就是说是一个聪明的一个同工，
who has no agenda of their own.
他有一个他自己，他没有自己的这个日程。
Do you know why? Because each of us are so worried that our priority will get lost.
因为每一个人可能都会发愁自己的这个优先的这个会。
We are all kind of nervous about this.
我们可能都担心这一点，就是自己的这个优先权被忽视了。
That when the teacher is listening to the others,
当这个教师来听取别人的意见的时候，
they're not paying nearly enough attention to the priority of teaching.
他可能会觉得就是大家没有足够的重视教导。
When the shepherd is listening,
当这个牧养者来听取这
he's
个，
saying, like, what about loving the people for goodness sakes?
他会说，这个牧养这个事工没有得到足够重视。
I haven't heard the word love once in this whole conversation.
我听到很多这种谈话。
And it will feel like maybe I don't even belong here.
可能每个人都觉得，哎呀，好像我不是属于这个团队。
The evangelist will say,
传道人可能会说，
there was nothing in this whole meeting that even touched on evangelism.
可能我们整个的会议都没有讲到传道的这个事工。
Maybe I should just quit and start my own evangelistic ministry.
也许我应该退出我自己去做这个传道的事工。
And the prophet,
先知，
you know, these people think that they're running a human organization. Where is God in this picture?
先知可能会觉得，哎呀，你们好像都是在做人的事工，神在这里，在什么地方？
You understand how challenging it could be to work together well?
大家都知道，在一块做这个事工是有多么的挑战。
But how badly we need all of these people around the table?
但是我们需要每一种这个同工在这个途径里面。
Now the administrator knows that they belong at this table.
只有这个做管理的这个同工知道每一个人在这个团队里都很重要。
When I first came to Waterloo,
当我刚到滑铁卢的时候，
I was invited to come here
我
to,
被邀请来到这里，
to do evangelism in the community.
在这个团体里面做传道。
The church was small.
这个时候教会很小，
They were very good at teaching.
他们在教导事工方面是很好的。
They wanted to do evangelism,
他们想要做传道，
but they decided that none of them were any good at it.
但是他们觉得没有一个人在这方面有很强的。
So I had just returned from South America,
我刚刚从南美回来那个时候，
and they said, would you help us?
他们问我你能不能帮助我？
Would you help us do this? Whatever you were doing there, would you help us do it here?
你能不能把你在南美所做的那些，能够在我们这边做起来？
So I went from door to door
所以
to every house in the community.
我在社区里面就是一家一户的走，
It was a very lonely job.
这是一个非常孤独的工作。
A few came with me,
有一些人和我在一起，
but we had a problem.
但是我们有问题那个时候。
That the small church that we had
像我们那么小的一个教会，
was all about good teaching, shepherding, and administration.
我们有非常好的教导、牧养和这个管理的事工。
I was finding people in the community,
但是我是跟社区里的人打交道。
and when I tried to bring them to our services,
当我们想把那些人来带到我们的这个教会事
there
工，
was a problem.
就出现问题了。
Because the services were being designed by people who were teachers.
因为那些的项目都是为那些要有教导恩赐的这些人设计。
And I was bringing people to a service designed for teaching.
我是把那些人来带到这样的事工里面。
For teaching people who already were believers.
这些教导是教导那些已经成为基督徒的人。
And I had a terrible time getting any of these people to join in.
我是把那些新的或者是没有怎么信的人来带到这里面，就出现问题了。
Because the teaching was being done at a level that didn't communicate to the new people that I was bringing.
因为我把新人带来的时候，这个教导的这个事工并没有很好的跟他交流。
In those days, I didn't have a voice at this table.
而且那个时候就是说没有像这样的一个会议来进行这样的交流。
So that there were, in those days, only 2 elders.
只有2位长老。
And while I was here working as an evangelist a lot of the time,
当我作为这个传道人在这里做这个事工的时候，
I was never invited to a conversation with the elders.
我从来没有和这个长老有过很好的交流。
And so,
交流
in some ways, I was like, remember in the old days in Russia they had a Sputnik? You remember that? No. A spacecraft.
不是，就是一个空间站是。
So I was like a spacecraft orbiting around the outside of the church.
我好像是在这个地球周围这个运转的这个空间站一样，我是在教会周围运作。
And they wanted me to find people out here and bring them in.
他们就希望我能够把人带到教会来，
I couldn't do it.
但是我做不到，
The gap was too big from here to here.
因为在这个教会里的教导和这个传道人所做的事情是这样不一样，
And I didn't even have an opportunity to talk to them about this.
而且我甚至没有机会和这个教会的领袖来谈到这样的事情。
And so when you put together your leadership group,
所以在当这个教会团队一起运作的时候，
each of these roles matters.
每一个角色都不一样。
And so if you put together a group of very steady, reliable people who are shepherds and teachers,
所以大家把每一个角色都放到这个可靠的一个领袖团队里的时候，
you will be missing these components.
可能会来就是错过或者是忽视某一个角色。
If you have these people,
如果大家就是说有各种各样的这种
but you don't have these down here,
但是没有这个教导和牧养的同工，
you will have a big problem.
也会出现很大的问题。
And so for this group to be able to come together
要让所有的人能够在一起很好的同工。
and they say, this is what we want to do.
这个导向型的同工就是说，我们应该去这样去做。
This person is able to help this big idea make sense.
这个管理型的同工就是做出计划，使这个导向能够去做。
And these people are able to fill in the color of the picture.
其他的这些同工呢，就是在做一个具体的，
so that they can work together effectively.
这样的话，他们才能有效的合作。
I think I'm ready to stop here. And I'm wondering, where would you like to go?
我想暂停一下，就是问问大家有没有什么样的问题，或者是有什么评论。
I guess first of all, any question? First of all, before we go, before we any question for Doug? Or for Gord, or for Doug, or for Bruce? For Gord. Or any comment that you want to make?
So, what kind of leader do you evaluate yourself?
What kind of leader am I?
Yeah, do you evaluate yourself? And how do you cooperate with other leaders?
I would say that my natural passion is towards evangelism and shepherding, those two. However, I've been involved in lots of teaching, and often I'm in this role here. So right now, I would say that with my role in Vision Ministries Canada is almost completely here. I desperately need help here. And there are people at this that are better at this than I am, and in all of these areas. So right now I work mostly here. But as a pastor here at Lincoln Road and Lakeshore, Bruce would know me better than anybody else in this room. Where do you think?
I think there was an evolution in your leadership development, Gord, where you started out principally as an evangelist, recognized that the evangelistic field was so large that you had to get other people involved in it. So I think you moved into the administrative side of it, and you began to get people excited about the visionary things of reaching out and church planting, so you are back on the left-hand side again, but then to implement it back to the middle, but all of the time caring for people you had come into contact with as an evangelist and as a pastor. So you went between all three, but I saw an evolution where the clarity of your leadership increased, and you recognized the need to put structure in place in order to sustain all that you were doing as an evangelist.
So many times over the years, when things are getting to be too big and too confusing, I've often talked to Bruce about those and say, no, because I need help thinking this through, making it more clear. So I like to go to other people to sharpen the focus. So that's kind of how I operate. For many years, I had a partner here with Envision Ministries Canada, David McClurkin, and he would say to me all the time, I'm your middle column guy.
就是说，他作为一个导向型的领袖，他很多时候是需要有这种管理型的、行政型的这个领袖来帮助他，来就是弄清楚自己的这个计划他就是说提到了在 The Vision Ministry 里面有一个朋友就是来帮助他做中间这一栏的事情做。
He could make any idea that I came up with better.
就是说这位就是同工，他就是能够帮助他把这个具体的计划能够做出来。
Now, with experience, we become more clear about our own contribution.
就是说我们逐步的可以认识到自己的这个强项。
So it's easier for me to say this today than it would have been when I was 30.
So you are what?
I'm no longer 30.
30。
Yeah, it's easier for me at this stage of my life to be clear about this than it was when I was 30 years of age.
就是说，在这个年纪，可能更加的清楚自己的这个恩赐在什么方面。
Gord, I caught a short sentence which you said earlier that the people in column 3 would look at people in column 2 as being unspiritual. Can you expound on that?
If we
你可以
come,
帮我翻译一下。
就是说第三栏的人经常觉得第二栏的人不够属灵，那么我们怎么看这件事情？
people who are shepherds and evangelists and teachers
做就是牧养型的，或者教导型的，或者传道人的同工，
tend to look at the administrative people
经常有这样的趋势，就是看待管理型的同工，
and they think they're not really very spiritual.
他们认为管理型的这个同工不够属灵，
They're concerned about organizing,
他们觉得他们整天就在那边组织啊，
insurance.
或者就是有这个保险，
Is this legal?
这些事情都合法吗？
Do we have the money?
我们都有没有钱做这些事情？整天就
They want to ask questions like, so who is going to do this and when and how?
这些管理型的同工就是一直在问，谁将去这些事情，做这些事情，我们怎么去做？
People here don't have those same questions in quite the same way.
但是教导型的同工可能就不太会考虑这些事情。
But I have to tell you
但是我必须告诉大家，
that one of our own daughter churches from Lincoln Road
有一个指堂嘛，是吧？教会的所执的新堂。
completely ended up having to fold because they had nobody in the middle.
就是说，他们就遇到很多的困难，因为没有管理型的这个同工。
They had some very gifted people here,
他们有很多很有恩赐的教导型的同工，
and they had some wonderful dreamers over here.
还有一些有梦想的这种导向型的领袖。
But there was nobody to stand in between and bring these two together.
但是没有管理型的童工把这两项能够联合起来，
It was quite painful to watch this.
这个看到这样的情形是非常的。
I tried desperately to find somebody to stand in the gap,
我是费了很大的努力想来找到有这样的有管理恩赐的童工，
but it was a big job
但是这是一件非常费心费力的事情。
because over here we had such free-spirited dreamers,
因为在我们有很多很有梦想的这个
and
道
they were
歉的
quite
人，
inspiring in a big kind of way.
他们能够提出很多激励人心的这种计
And the
划。
people over here would listen to them,
在右边的这些人可能会听从他们的这个导向，
but they couldn't bring those big ideas together to where the people were.
但是这样的教会就不能把这种大的方向、大的梦想能够具体化实现出来。
And most people go to school to learn these skills, go to seminary or Bible college.
当人们去上神学院来学习右边的这些知识的时候，
In recent years, there's been a big emphasis on this,
也会强调左边的这样的恩赐。
that spiritual leadership, there are many, many books being written about it.
有很多的书讲到这种属灵的领袖，
But not so much about this.
但是并没有很多书来讲到这怎么样管理教会。
And I had a very interesting experience a number of years ago
1000年之前，
where we had a ministry downtown Kitchener.
我们在最近的当趟有一个这个事工，
I was chairing the board,
我是这个团队的主席，
and the ministry was in trouble.
但是这个事工就出现问题了。
We had a very inspiring man over here.
我们有一个很好的这种导向型的领袖，
We had many, many volunteers to do this.
我们也有很多人愿意去自愿做这个教导的，
But we were in trouble in the middle.
但是我们就没有一个很好的管理者。
And I knew a brother in the city who was very gifted here.
我知道有一位弟兄是很有管理的这个天赋的，
But he was kind of hard to get along with.
但是好像大家都很难跟他打交道，
It was easy for him to see what was wrong with things.
因为他总是能够发现这个事情什么地方做的不好。
And for me, this was one of the most frightening decisions.
对我来说，这是一个就是说很战战兢兢的一个
Should I introduce these two men to each other?
就是说我是不是应该把这个人介绍到施工里面？
Will it all explode?
会不会引起爆炸？
Or will it actually work together?
还是能够很好的在一块同工？
And because we were so desperate,
因为我们那时候是如此的绝望，
I introduced them,
所以我还是把他介绍进来了。
and it worked.
但是那个时候就运作的很好。
And I remember going down to see them.
我还记得，就是我回去那个
I
时候
said,
去看他
how
们，
are you doing this?
我问就是说你们做的怎么样？
Could you draw a picture for me to show me how this works?
你能不能给我画出一幅图画来告诉我你们做的怎么样？
So I came back the next week,
我第2个星期再去的时候，
and they showed me their picture.
他们就画出来这个图。
Now you have to know that they were both a little large.
大家都知道他们都是个子很大的这些人，
They drew a rectangle like this,
他们就画了一个这个像这样的一个图形，
and then they drew a line from this corner down to this corner.
他们就画了一个对角线。
They said, we decided that we are each half a man.
他说我们决定了，我们每一个人都是半个人，
That neither of them could do this, do what needed to be done by themselves.
每一个人都没有能力独自把这件事情做好。
And because they were both a little large, I could hardly stop from laughing.
因为他们的个子都很大，所以我是忍不住的笑。
But it was a wonderful story
但是其实是一个很好的故
of
事，
humility
就是大家都能谦卑，把自己谦卑下来，
and fruitfulness.
就是能够结果子，一起结果子。
And the ministry recovered and is continuing to this day.
这个教会这个事工就能够恢复起来，能够一步一步走下去。
But that was a very frightening time.
但是其实当时是一个很战战兢兢的一个时间。
I think in China we have a better illustration. Instead of a rectangle, it's a circle, one circle, and in the middle there's a S, letter S. So it's kind of more integrated. Other than the rectangle is a line.
Okay.
Okay, any other question
大家还有什么其他的问题
or comment?
或者评论？
So what we like to do, Gord, next is to actually form a co-workers and a team. You know, we wanted to put everything, what we just learned, into a ship and you know, in ship of co-workers.
接下来我们可能就要形成我们的这个同工团队，就是把我们所学到的内容来应用到组织同工团队。
Before that, I do have a question. It's important. 我觉得这三个都很重要，但是呢，对一个教会来说，我觉得首先的第一步的问题是在于这个，就是最左边这一点，因为如果方向有问题的话，那就是像圣经里面说，瞎子带瞎子一起掉到沟里面去。那么这时候怎么来保证就是方向是要对的？因为如果方向不对，我们做的这个工作不仅没有益处，还
So you were saying that you understand all the three columns are very important, but then also the people that give a direction is important, and how can we make sure that the direction is correct?
Trust.
The reason that you can trust the direction is because they are not alone. So that when we come to this flower power, here, could you just run that up? Just bring that up a little bit. So,
The structure.
No, the
to the flower.
Flower，
Up, yeah. So, because this person is not alone.
因为这个做出导向的这些同工并不是很孤独的。
Often, this person can, in a couple of hours, come up with an idea that would be quite workable.
经常他们在很短的一个时间内就能做出一个就是为教会做出一个导向，
But the idea is not complete.
但是他们的这个主意经常是不那么完整的。
This person needs to help fill out the picture.
我们需要能够做管理的这些同工，把这个导向呢具体化，
Not compete with the idea,
并不是要跟这个做导向的这个同工来竞争，
but to help make this idea workable.
而是使这个导向能够更具体化，能够好操作。
And then each of these people need to help color the picture.
其他的所有的同工都来帮助来具体化这个事情。
This simply gives a clear focus.
导向型的同工只是给一个清楚的一个方向。
For example,
举例来说，
here we are in Waterloo.
我们现在在滑铁卢，
We have a very substantial Chinese community here.
我们有个很大的一个中国人的社区，
There are more Chinese people still coming,
还有更多的华人要来，
and they are likely to continue to come.
他们很可能继续的持续不断的会来。
We have universities here.
我们有一个大学，
And so that's a significant factor.
这些都是非常重要的一个事实。
If you have somebody here who says, considering where we are,
如果有人在这个导向型的这个位置来说，来考虑我们所处的环境，
they paint a picture of ministry in Waterloo.
他们就是画出了在滑铁卢的地方做施工的这个图景。
Others might say, well, I know of a ministry in Toronto and it's different.
那么会不会有人说，我知道在多伦多做事工可能不一样，
But you're not in Toronto.
但是这个时候可能就
And the
是
person who spoke is not in Toronto.
因为做导向型的同工，他们人不是在多伦多。
We're saying that we're willing to accept this person.
我们是不是有一颗愿意接受这个做导向的这个同工的这个心，
To be our inspirational voice and leader,
让他们来做我们的这个导向型的领袖，
so that we have direction.
这样我们就有一个方向。
That direction is going to be clarified and sharpened by everybody else on the team.
他们所做出来的这个导向，由我们其他的人来补充、来具体化。
But we don't want them to ruin
我们并不
what
是
we started with.
我们并不是希望他来统治我们的这个
It takes a lot of humility to do this.
我们要有很多的谦卑来接受这一点。
You can easily see that this could break down.
大家也许会很容易的看到，这个是比较容易崩溃的这种。
But if we have somebody that we have some trust in here,
但是如果我们都有充分的信任对这些导向型的同工，
we don't all have to try to beat him down until we have no idea.
我们就是说不能够轻易的把他们打倒，结果我们自己也失去了导向。
This may not, his idea or her idea may not be the universal one for every church in the world,
他们的这个做出来的这个导向，并不一定能够应用到就是世界上每一个教会，
but they have a capacity to see things here.
但是他们有这样的能力来看到我们教会
They know who we are.
所要有的方向，他们知道我们是谁，
They know who the community is.
他们知道我们所处的环境怎么样，
And they have inspiring capacity.
他们有这种激励的这种能力。
Don't pour buckets of cold water on them every chance you get.
不要给他那个每次的浇喷冷水。
不要泼冷水，
Just because it's not perfect
就是因为不够完美，
doesn't mean that you shouldn't
呃，
follow it.
并不是因为不够完美，我们就不去支持他们。
You may know about 5,000 websites and 100,000 books that say something a little different.
大家也许看到了，成千上万的这个网页书都说的跟他们教导的不一样。
But our little group needs to learn to work together.
但是对于我们这个小组，我们应该在一块合作。
And so if this person says,
所以如果这样的人说，
we should have a priority on reaching students who come to Waterloo,
如果这样的人提出导向，就是说我们应该把接触来到滑铁卢的学生作为优先，
we will reach them, teach them,
我们要接触他们，来教导他们，
and prepare them for ministry.
要使他们受到装备，能够进行施工。
That's enough.
他就是这么说的。
So the administrative person says, all right,
那么这管理型的同工会说，好吧，
how are we going to do this with the people that we have?
那么我们现在所有的这些人应该为这件事情来做点什么？
We have other gifted people.
我们有一些有各种各样恩赐的弟兄姐妹，
We have special strength in one or more of these areas.
我们有各种各样的这种人力资源，
And they begin to put together a plan.
所以这个管理型的同工可能就开始做计划，
And this takes time.
这个是比较花时间的事情。
But then we want to talk to the shepherd,
然后我们就想和牧养型的同工
to the teacher,
和这种教导型的同
to
工
the evangelist,
同传道人，
to the prophet, and we want to put together a ministry plan for here
那么我们就想做出一个可操作的一个计划，
that we will plan and work and pray
我们
to
在
fulfill.
一 一起计划、一起工作、一起祷告，来完成这么一个导向。
I think when we talk about the directional leader, are you talking about a particular one person or a group of people? And if it is group people, what's the difference between the directional leaders and the elder qualification, the leadership class? It's kind of so how should we trust a individual leader for the directional, or in most cases we better have more than one leader to make sure that the leadership is not too extreme, the goal is not too
I think
You know what? This is the perfect question.
这是一个很好的问题，就是说我们是就是信任个别的这个导向型的领袖呢，还是对于导向型领袖本身也应该有一个团队来做出这个决定。
I would say trust one person. Trust one person here and here. And in each of these areas, trust one.
trust one of them or trust each of them.
Trust each of them. Each of them in their sphere.
我们要对于每一个这个领域的这个同工都有充分的信任。
Trust is unnatural.
其实这个信任并不是一个自然的事情。
Because what if Josh comes up with a crazy idea?
就是如果这个像教授啊，他如果提出一个疯狂的一个
But
计
you
划
know，what? He already is a mature person.
但是大家要信任这些同工都本身是一个成熟的属灵的，
He's already affirmed by the whole group.
他的这个权威是得到了其他弟兄姐妹的认可。
As somebody who is the most able to do this of our whole group.
他是整个团队里面最能够做出这样决定的人。
And so we will find at times it quite difficult to trust any one of these.
我们可能会有一些的时间，就是说，有困难来信任这个每一个人的角色。
Because they may pull us off a little bit further in one direction than we are comfortable with.
可能就是说，这种信任会把我们带离这种我们自己觉得比较舒适的这个领域。
Can I share something? I think this circle, I mean, I like the center part because if everyone is that qualification, has the humility, the maturity, respecting all, I don't think this leader will kind of just go off the left field. You know, like saying that, okay, today we're going to, everybody, we won't stay in this church, we're going to go out to evangelize. You know, you just have to try. And another thing, as I was listening to Gord and Bruce saying their experience, I think the longer you have been in ministry, the more you understand yourself. Okay? And I really like this process of affirmation because sometimes you think you're this one, but people are not affirming you. Then I think you really have to rethink. Maybe you're not who you think you are. Okay? And secondly,
Do we need to translate here somewhere?
所以我就说，我们第一个就是大家都了解这个，每一个带领的人都是要经过那个圣经的那个长老的那个怎么样 qualification 资格，所以就是我们相信这些人都是在灵里已经长进，然后也是谦卑愿意学习，不会说他自己幻想一个主意就是带领大家走错 ，OK。然后第二点就是说，像那个这两个有经验的牧师，他们经验了很久，他们就发觉他们的恩赐几乎都比较平衡，他们都可以做每一个像 Bruce 他说他可以做右边和左边，他都可以做，因为他们已经经验了很多，所以他们也很了解他们的恩赐是什么。所以我们刚刚举手，我是觉得这一点是很重要，就是说人家不是你自己看你自己是怎么样的恩赐，是人家怎么样看你。像Joshua觉得他没有在左边，可是人家说有呀，你有， 对不对？然后大家也 affirm，所以这种是很好，不是说你自己一个人你自己觉得你自己是怎么样。然后第三点，我是觉得很重要的是 ，third point is like I find that once we are honest with ourselves with our gifting, okay, and after people affirming that okay this is not really your gifting or this should be your gifting, then we should not envy the other gifting. OK， 我是觉得我们不能就盼望我是这样子的，因为我知道有时候我也很盼望我宁愿是右边的。我有时因为我比较中间，我也比较喜欢做东西。我有时盼望哇那些人好在那里祷告，我希望我可以那么多时间祷告，好像比较属灵。我太不属灵了，我一天在这里忙着煮饭做东西，对不对？这里有什么属灵？所以我说我们不要说想要那个人的恩赐，也不要否认另外一个人做饭的恩赐。我们就是要互相谦卑，一起同工，然后不要说我不信任你，我觉得你带我错了。我们就是要交流。So my third point is like you don't need to envy the other person's gifting. Not saying that this is better than the other. We're all working together, have a trust, and that's how the church can move forward.
Gord, one sentence that really struck me what you say, trust them. That is really
Trust them or trust just one person. I think there's two cases. I think in most cases, in my experience, in my surroundings environment, like most often I see for the directional gift more than one people have that things, and in many cases those direction looks like it's kind of conflicting with each other. Just like when you do the evangelism, you have two people and one would like to go that way, one would go the other way, and in most cases in my environment I trust both people. So the practical way I follow, I don't know if it's right or nowadays, like if those two people say we have two people, but in many cases it's more than two. Like say there are two elders to mature people I trust, and they have a different opinion, right? So if they have a same opinion, I'm very glad, so I just follow. And but if they have two opinion, I'm intended to go something in the middle. I think that way maybe not too.
And you see,
Then
so let me make trouble for you. Can you help me?
举例
举例，哎，
，as an example.
So I want to make trouble for him.
就是说我给他制造麻烦。
You see, for someone who is a natural administrator,
大家可以看到，就是说某些人可能是天生的这种管理型的同工。
what he is saying makes perfect sense.
他所说的都是很有道理的，
But we're looking for direction.
但是我们都在寻找方向。
And if he says, well, if there are two people that have a different idea, we'll go to the middle.
他说如果有就是两种不同的声音，我们采取这个中间道路。
either we go middle or we stop. That's normally what I pick.
You see, it's okay for us, some of us, to want the middle.
当然有些人觉得想走中间道路也不错了。
So when you have decisions that don't require much risk,
当大家就是说做出一个决定不用很冒险的时候，
you can do that.
你可以去这么做。
But when you have decisions that require great faith and boldness,
但是如果做出一个决定是很需要有信心，并且很需要有胆量去
it's very hard to do it that way.
那么就其实这么做是很困难的。
So that last summer I was in Africa
上个夏天我在非洲，
and I look around and I see these poor people.
我看到很多的穷困的人，
And I see that they have a hard time even finishing one of their church buildings.
我看到他们即使是来完成一个教会建筑，都是那么的困难。
And I think, could we help?
我就在那里想，我们能够帮助他们，
I thought we could give them $20,000,
我们也许能够给他们2万块钱，
and it would help a little bit.
只是对他们稍有帮助。
And it would be easy for us to find $20,000.
对于我们来说，可能并不是那么困难。
But what if we wanted to do something more substantial?
但是我们可能要做一些更基本的事情。
So I thought, what if we gave them $150,000?
我就在想，我们是不是能够给他们15万块钱？
I know that we don't have $150,000,
我知道我并没有这个15万块钱，
and I have never raised $150,000 for such a purpose before.
而且我从来没有为这样的事工去来争取到15万块钱。就
If I ask my administrative friend,
如果我问我的这个管理型的同工，
I know he's going to say maybe we should start with 30.
我知道他可能会告诉我，我们先从3万块钱开始吧。
So for me, it was very daring to say that we will raise $150,000.
对我来说，就是说出15万块钱这个数字，其实是很有胆量的一件事。
Because we already have problems raising our own budget.
因为我们就是连完成我们自己的这个预算都是有困难的。
But right now,
但是到现在，
we are over halfway
我们已经争取到1半以上的这个
in
钱，
raising the $150,000.
就是为这个15万块钱已经争取到1半以上。
And so for a church
所以为一个教会来说，对一个教会来说，
to allow someone to be a little bit bold and daring
我们要允许一些人能够比较大胆，比较提出大胆的计划，
is a good thing.
这其实是一件好事。
That if we say no, we don't want to do it until we all agree.
如果我们说，我们如果没有达成一致的话，就坚决不做这个事情的话，
I think there are some things when we should all agree.
我认为我们是有一些事情，就是大家都应该赞同。
But if there were no Peter or Paul, where would the church be?
但是如果没有彼得或者保罗在那里领袖的话，那么这个教会是
They did very bold and daring things.
像彼得和保罗他们做很多大胆的这种决定。
And I'm saying we shouldn't eliminate the Peters and Pauls from our churches.
所以我认为不应该在教会里面来禁止有彼得和保罗这样的领袖。
But it's risky to have them around.
但是有这样的领袖呢，其实又是很冒险的事情。
If the Apostle Paul were to walk in the door,
如果保罗就是这时候走进我们这个门，
what would we do?
那么我们应该做什么？
We would say, can we trust him?
我们会说我们能信任他吗？
Or should we say, well, what about if we wait until we have 2 Pauls?
我们还是说我们等着我们有2个保罗的这个时候。
And so I just, this is difficult.
是非常困难的。
We don't naturally easily trust each other.
我们就是天然是不太愿意去信任别人，
And we easily are worried about who is going to be the greatest among us.
我们经常会担忧谁在我们中间是最大的。
Will our contribution become minimized somehow?
我的这个贡献是不是被缩小了？
And I have to tell you this.
我必须告诉大家，
If you put together a co-workers team
如果在一个同工团队里面，就是大家共同合作的话，
and you don't get the position that you thought you deserved,
你没有得到就是很多的认同，就是你认为你应该得到的那个认同，
will you go into a spiritual pout?
就是说大家会有一个这个属灵的这个地步，
You know what the answer is?
Like
好
help 就是不高兴。
不高兴，就是
The answer is
答案是
probably yes.
也许是这样。
If you don't get the kind of recognition that you think you deserve,
如果你没有得到你认为你应该得到的那份认同的话，
you will be very tempted to pout.
大家就是会被引导，会被这个诱惑很生气。
And maybe you'll do this.
也许你会这样做，
You'll say, I don't care.
也许你会说啊我不在乎，
But you do care.
但是你其实是很在乎。
This happens a lot.
这个其实是发生过很多次。
And so I just want to urge you
我想来劝导大家，
to put a big humility hat on
来有一个很谦卑的心，
and don't take it off.
不要把这个谦卑的心拿掉。
Especially if you don't get this recognition that you thought you deserved.
特别是你没有得到你认为你应该得到的那份认同的时候。
The Proverbs say that a man's gift will open the door to kings.
箴言里面说，这个一个人的这个恩赐可以为这个众王来开门。
And so to allow your brothers and sisters to interpret for you
所以我们应该允许我们的弟兄姐妹来为我们说话，
is so important.
这是非常重要的。
In almost every case
在每一个情形下，
where we have church plants that are developing and they're ready now to establish formal leaders,
尤其是当教会做出计划，并且是来建立新的领袖的时候，
it's very frequent that somebody who didn't get what they thought they deserved will actually leave the church.
我们经常会发现有一些人可能他们没有得到相当的认同的时候，他们会离开教会。
And you understand that we're talking about maturity here.
大家都知道我们在讲这个数灵命的成熟，
And so do I have the maturity to accept the assessment of my brothers and sisters?
那么我有没有成熟到这种程度，就是能够接受别的弟兄姐妹对我的评价？
It's a very serious question.
这是一个非常严肃的问题。
And when you do this, you should pray and consider that we are looking to God to guide us in this.
当大家做这样的决定的时候，应该沉下心来祷告，来寻求神的引导，
Will we trust Him?
来问自己，就是说我们是不是信任这个人？
Or might we say we trust Him, but we don't trust the others?
或者我们说我们信任神，但是我们不彼此信任人。
Quite often, people will say, I trust God, but I don't trust them.
有的时候人们会说我是信神，但是我不信任彼此。
Is this the voice of maturity?
这是一个成熟的属灵声音吗？
Or is it the voice of immaturity?
还是一个不成熟的声音呢？
I think I should.
Thank you, God. I really appreciate that. So you have laid out challenges for us. And my prayer is that God in His sovereignty is going to guide us, and God in His sovereignty will also weed out people that that is not ready to serve as well. I guess Doug or Bruce, anything that you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. Just the one thing I have spinning through my head is how easy it is to judge someone whose gifting is different as not being spiritual.
Okay.
就是说我们会很容易的来就是论断其他人的这个恩赐不够属灵。
So we need to understand someone's closeness to the Lord as being quite different from this.
我们要能够看到，就是说别人和神的这种亲密的关系。
And when we find ourselves judging others as not being spiritual, that needs to be a kind of warning to us.
当我们发现我们在论断别人不够属灵的时候，这其实是一个警号。
And I think that's one of the specific expressions of humility or of pride, is the tendency to judge someone as not being spiritual because their gifts are different.
当我们论断别人这个不够属灵的时候，其实我们自己要能够有一颗这个谦卑的心，就不能因为别人和自己的属灵恩赐不同，就是随便做这个论断。
Thank you.
I have two observations. Number one is that in the New Testament there are two kinds of leadership described.
在我有这样的就是观察，就是说在新约里描述了两种领袖。
There's leadership that the elders do.
一个就是说长老这种领袖。
Which is a kind of a governing leadership, making sure that everything is in order.
就是说是一种管理，就是说使每一件事情都能够按秩序的去运行。
And we have multiple elders who are qualified by maturity and their spiritual walk.
我们有很多这样的领袖，就是说由于他们的这个灵命成熟，被放到了这样的位置上。
So this governing gives stability and safety to the church.
这样的管理呢，能够给这个教会带来稳定以及这个良好的运作。
And the other kind of leadership is the gift of leadership, the gift of the Spirit.
但另外一种领袖的方式呢，是这种属灵的恩赐的这么一个领袖。
And that's to individuals.
这些是对于个体的这个人。
So this is where the trust comes in.
这是信任的一个来源。
These mature plurality of leaders in the governing function
就是说，在这种领袖的多元化，在这个管理的这个功能下面，
learn to trust the brother or sister who has the gift of leadership.
我们要学习去尊重这些有这种属灵恩赐、领袖恩赐的这个弟兄姐妹。
And so there's a balance between these two kinds of leadership.
也要就是在两种一个管理型的领袖，还有一个就是说属灵的这种领袖方面有一个平衡。
I can give you an example from our experience.
我可以就我们来给大家一个例子。
When I first became an elder, Gordon Martin had so many ideas.
当我刚刚成为一个长老的时候，这个 Gordon Martin 有很多的主意。
I thought the role of the elders was to slow Gord down.
我就觉得好像我作为这个长老的这个角色，好像就是逐步在走下坡路。
But Gord, in humility, recognized that he was trying to pull the plurality of leaders, the elders, too far too fast.
但是高尔当时就有一个谦卑的心，他认识到，就是说他的这种领袖的角色，可能把这个长老的这个团队，就是说带得太远、太快了。
So he showed grace and humility and slowed down so we could catch up.
所以他就慢下来了，然后他就是说能够让大家能够追得上他。
And because he was so gracious to slow down and let us catch up, we began to trust him more and more.
也因为他就是展示了这个恩典，能够慢下来他的这个脚步，所以我们就更加的信任他。
And then it took us less time to catch up with him because of the trust and humility both ways.
因为这个互相之间信任的这个增长呢，我们就是花了更少的时间，能够更好的合作。
And I think that was the Lord at work in all of the hearts.
所以就是说，主在我们彼此的心中都工作了，
But it's a learning process.
但是这也是一个学习的过程。
I want to thank you, Gord, and Gab and Bruce for giving us training. It was really good, really good. It's going to be very helpful for us. So my recommendation is for everybody just to stay for another half an hour. Is it okay? Yeah?
建议大家就是说站在一起留下来半个小时来
Okay.
讨论。
So we're going to put so-called what we learned to practice.
就是说我们要把我们学到的来付诸实践。
And we're going to form the co-workers and the team.
我们也要建立我们自己的这个同工团队。
Okay.
谢谢周老师。
Thank you very much. Now I can put this. Is it belonging to the vision? That slide.
What do you need?
Huh?
Do you need to, that slide identifying the different gifting?
Oh,